Welcome to this EIC Accelerator webinar. My name is Liv, and together with my colleague Hugo, we are part of the International Grants Department of EFI Group, and today we are hosting this session.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Luz. So welcome to our webinar on the Champions League of Innovation, which is the EIC Accelerator. So before we jump into our topic, let me take this opportunity to acknowledge your attendance, because this really highlights the importance of such events for the SME community. As you are aware, we will be addressing the EIC process, the EIC platform, and in the end, we are going to have a roundtable with key personalities. So make sure you tune in until the end. Okay.
Okay, first of all, I invite both Alex Álvarez, our EFI Group International Grants Department Director, and Beate Kreisel, our colleague, European Project Leader. Good morning, Alex and Beate.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
So the floor is yours, Alex.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. First of all, thank you for joining us today. Thank you to our panel experts, and thank you to the audience to attend to this online event. I am the grants director, as Luz said, in the company, and I'm going to do a short introduction of the event, because I'm sure that all of you are waiting for the experts' time. In this event, we have planned 3 modules to talk about the EIC process, the EIC platform, and finally, we will have a very interesting roundtable to talk about the funding gap for deep tech high-risk SMEs, as said a few minutes ago, Luz and Hugo. So without further delay, I start my introduction. Firstly, I would like to do some comments about the current economical and healthy situation and the importance of the research and innovation at this moment. After this, I'll explain how EFI Group is helping to our clients in this current situation in these moments. A few weeks ago, I read an interview to Maria Gabriel, our EU Commissioner for Innovation, Research, Culture, Education and Youth, as you know. And she said several interesting things, and she did some interesting reflections about the current global situation. For instance, she said that the global response to COVID-19 has been defined by scientific research and innovation. After the early work on understanding the virus and tracking the pandemic, the new treatments and diagnosis, the universal acclaim for the discovery of effective vaccines in record time is fully justified at this moment. And it's not just medical science, because artificial intelligence help to recreate the virus genome sequence, and 3D printing provides swift solutions for personal protection and extra ventilators in our hospitals. Leading scientists have become media personalities, sharing the stage with politicians and supporting society through the unprecedented challenge of recent months. Never before we have been more aware of the vital contribution of science, research and innovation, preserving and promoting human existence. Also, Maria asked if we are seizing the once-in-a-generation opportunity of massive public spending to build better and boost economic resilience by investing in research and economy. And according to recent figures from European Investment Bank, the pandemic has led to alarming reductions in private research and innovation investments, and similar cuts in public research and innovation spending, as governments and companies struggle with short-term liquidity challenge, potentially harming in the future achievement of the European efforts toward climate neutrality. Public authorities are leading the way in reversing this trend. consistent, as you know, with the research and innovation investment target of 3% of GDP in the EU countries. The recent agreed Recovery and Resilience Facility will provide early support to EU countries post-COVID investment and reform strategies. On the other hand, the European Innovation Council will create new opportunities under Horizon Europe to support innovative startup and scale-up companies and promote Europe's venture capital market. Pilot actions in this area show public funding creating multiplier effect of 3 times in terms of private investment, as is said. And also, Maria Gabriel highlighted that the EIC Accelerator is a unique funding instrument of EU. It supports the development of breakthrough innovations through crowding private investors and offering support to services to scale up. It will lead Europe at forefront of innovation and new technologies and help us tackle the health, environmental and societal challenge we are facing. After this short introduction, now I would like to explain a few words about how FI Group is helping to our clients at this moment. FI Group is a global consulting company specialized in the management of the different incentives available for several kinds of entities, private but also public sector. We work with international grants, with European grants, national grants, regional grants. We work with innovation management, the right tax approach, and other services very related with the innovation. Because now, as I said before, the innovation is very important. The research is very important. It's absolutely necessary if we want to make European economies and societies more sustainable, more resilient, and better prepared for the challenge and coming opportunities. Thanks to more than 1,300 employees, FI Group combines a whole range from startups, thanks to our specialized units focused on startup services, to large companies in their development. With over 20 years of experience in the field, it's currently present in 13 countries with 38 offices, sorry. And with our IGD department, or International Grants Department, which is a transversal department allocated in the different EU countries, providing our support and expertise to our clients, technical expertise in some cases, but other expertise related with business plan, for instance, with regulatory aspects of the programs, with the IPR assessment, etc. Thanks to all different profiles, we can provide this integral support to our clients. And Beate, project leader of International Grants Department in France, will explain sure better than me our IGD department, and also she will give you an overview of the EIC, which is the European Association of Innovation Consultants, and what are the main objectives of this association at this moment. Finally, we hope you find very interesting this event. I'm sure of that. And that's all from my side. Thank you very much. Beate, please, you can continue.
Thank you, Alex. And herzlich willkommen and bienvenue also from my side. So my name is Beate Kreisel, and as Alex just introduced me, I'm a project leader for EU grants within the International Grants Department we call IGD. As Alex already introduced so well, the IGD is an international department with about 50 consultants. So if you maybe just go to the next slide. So we have 50 departments who are all specialized in different EU grants funding programs. Our team is spread over 5 European countries: Spain, Portugal, France, Belgium, and Italy. But of course, we also accompany clients from many other European countries, for instance, in Germany or Austria, and other less German-speaking countries. Our team, and now we can go to the next slide. Our team is really working with international companies, with public bodies, university, RTOs, but of course we also pay a lot of attention to support SMEs and startups with accelerator programs to really help them to apply for accelerator programs and public and funding, private funding instruments. So I think we are quite lucky because we have a large network of really brilliant researchers and innovators with whom we have the chance to work with. So over the past, I think 6-7 years, we were able to support more than 100 successful proposals. So the IDD consultants have all quite different backgrounds and expertises in various sectors like ICT, and energy security, just to name a few one. And if you go to the next slides, just give you an overview that shows that our people are not only technical specialists. So we have experts who will help you to build excellent proposals. Then we have experts, I'm one of it, who will help you to manage your finance projects, so to really ensure that you meet your ambitious goals and that indeed at the end you obtain your funding. And then we have a number of transversal profiles. Alex already named a few, such as economists, market specialists, dissemination, communication experts, and IPR specialists. So I think we can really say we have a complementary profiles, and that's exactly what allows us to support clients from really the very first rough beginning to the expectation of the final project outputs. So basically, if you ask the International Grants Department for support in developing your EIC Accelerator proposal, you can really be I'm sure of it that the different offices we have in FI Group across Europe, they work really closely together on this program. They share the best practices and experience, and also the good ones and the bad ones, obviously, always with the aim to improve ourselves. And of course, we also have really good established relationships with national contact points and other relevant stakeholders, such as the European Association of Innovation Consultants. And that will bring me actually to the next slides. And I hope that you grant me another 2 minutes just to very briefly introduce to you on the next slide the EAIC, the European Association of Innovation Consultants, because you will see actually that the work they do can really create a benefit for European SMEs and startups. I hope I did not lose you. Marta, can you just go on the next slides? Yeah, perfect. Okay, and then next one again. Very good. So since the very first day, actually, FI Group contributed to really laying the foundations of this European association. I think the name of the initiative is quite self-explaining. It gathers more than, I think today, 40 innovation consultancies all over Europe. And the aim of our association is really to create synergies, to promote the added value that our different experts can bring to research innovation projects. And then also to represent members towards the European Commission and other European institutions and stakeholders. So being part of the European Association also means that FI Group really shares and defends the ethical code of our profession. So, and if I may add, you already met Alex, or EO Grants Director, so we are quite happy that FI Group is also one of the 8 board members of the associations. And then going to the next slide, again, the question now, why should I talk to you about the association? I just give you one example. Over the last 12 months, the EAIC has published 4 opinion papers. So 2 of them specifically focused on the EIC Accelerator. And the aim was here really to defend the continuation of the EIC pilot with an appropriate amount of budget. And I think you heard, especially in the pandemic outbreak, when the pandemic outbreak happened, there was a real issue on making enough budget available here for the EIC. And then very important as well, the aim of the association is really to make sure that the EIC Accelerator program remains accessible for our clients, for our SMEs, for the startups. So the really specific recommendations have been made to tackle oversubscription topics we have lately seen on this instrument, but also to clarify actually evaluation criteria and the evaluation process itself. So it shows that really that this European Association defends the interests of EIC applicants. And actually, it seems that the observation and criticism and recommendations that the association has quite widely spread via these position papers have been heard by the EIC, because quite a number of these recommendations from the papers have been considered in the next, in the new EIC process and the platform, which will now be presented to you by my colleagues Lluís and Hugo. And before I hand over, let me maybe just conclude that the IDD team at FI will really make sure that our clients benefit not only, of course, from the valuable work that we are doing in the European Association, but that you will also benefit from the privileged exchanges we may have with the European Commission and other European stakeholders. Thank you very much.
Very well, thank you both, Alex and Beate, to letting us know how SMEs can work with us now, especially with the new Horizon Europe. So, as most of you are aware, the goal of this session is to motivate you, to support you to be competitive under this new work program, and in this specific case, we are targeting the EIC. So, just a brief words on the EIC. As most of you are aware, it supports high-risk, high-potential SMEs that foster the development of innovative solutions that can be integrated into the market and that can drive economic growth. So we're going to jump directly into the EIC process, and Lluís, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Hugo. So as you see in the screen, we are now going to explain the new submission process. It may look a bit complicated when you see this scheme, but in fact, it's just an evolution of the previous H2020 program. So first of all, the key of this redesign is based on three main objectives. Of course, detect the best deep tech startups of Europe, improve the success rates, and also optimize both the preparation and evaluation process. So let me explain you with more detail. Apart from the phases that I will just comment on now, the first starting point, I would say, the first change is that now the scores disappear. So we are not longer grading a 10 or a 12. Now we are going to receive a go or no go in each one of the phases, the short, the full, and the interview. To complement this, we are going also to receive feedback from the evaluators. And I think it's something that we all missed in the previous process in the H2020 grant. Okay, so well, as you can see, we have three submission stages: the short, the full, and the interview. To start with, the short proposal will consist in the preparation of three main documents: 5-page proposal, more or less 5-page, 10-slide deck, and a 3 minutes maximum video. Okay, this will allow to show our project and our ideas in a more agile way, okay, and a shorter way. Unlike the majorities of the grants that we all know, this stage it's going not to have a deadline, which means that by now it's always open. That will allow us to detect the right moment to submit our proposal and to prepare with enough time a good project. And for me, the why now makes more sense than ever, because the second novelty, the big novelty, is we will only have 2 chances to apply. And if we receive 2 no-go results, we will be blocked from the program for 12 months, okay? So this will also happen in the other stages of the evaluation. But if we have a good result, once we have this short stage go, we will go on to prepare the full proposal. This is the second stage of this new process. So we will need to prepare a more in-depth project information through the platform that Hugo will explain later. And we will be requested to give more information regarding the company structure, our finances, business plan, everything with lots of more detail than in the short proposal. Okay, so the short proposal will be the basis to prepare this in order to reach the last stage. This full proposal stage would be similar as we know in the last EIC 2020 program. Okay. And it's also going to have a deadline, like all the standard grants in the new Horizon Europe. Okay, this 2021, we will have two deadlines, one in October and the first one in June, just in a few months. Okay, we don't know the forthcoming dates for the next years. We expect having more than two, but we don't know yet. So finally, what happens if we have a go in this full proposal stage? We will reach the interview phase. Okay, this is similar, or we expect to be similar as what we already know, the face-to-face interview. So the best companies will have to prepare a 10-minute pitch deck in front of a jury, and then they will ask 30 minutes, more or less, Q&A session, okay, to discuss everything regarding the project, the technology, the financial part, and of course, the money that you are asking for, anything that may have sense, okay? But you can see this process has been extended. Now we have an extra application with a short proposal. It's expected to continue to be one of the quickest grants to solve. Okay, that means that in a few months, we will be able, if we have these three goes, to start to launch our project, okay, and to receive part of the money. So these are not, but the main novelties regarding the EIC Accelerator submission process. I think an extra novelty that is part of the process, but which we have still to wait, is the plugin and fast track instruments that are going to be applied. We expect end of the year, maybe 2022, we don't know yet. And these instruments will link the EIC Accelerator grant with other European and also national programs. And I think that also will be part of the strategy of the European Commission to create links between different grants. Okay, so I think this is all by my side. You can ask any questions in the chat. We will try to answer at the end of the webinar, most of them if we have enough time. Now, my colleague Hugo, as I mentioned, will tell you more detail about the tool that will support the short and the full applications of the two first stages to the submission platform. So Hugo, your turn.
Thank you, Luz. So I think you can see my screen, right? Okay.
Yes, we can see it.
We can see the EIC platform. Okay, very well. So huge difference already from the funding and tenders portal. Now we have a specific web page for the EIC submission. Okay, so what you need to do, you need to access this link, so accelerator.iesma.eu, and then with your funding and tenders login credentials, you will have access to the new EIC platform. So we are just logging in. I need to put back my password, so just a second. There it is. And so then we get to this first stage where we can start our innovation journey. So the EIC platform is divided into 3 steps. So a discovery section, a diagnostic session, and then a step 2, a full design innovative project, which is the full application that Luz was mentioning. Okay, so with regards to the new process, we need to create a new diagnostic. So I created this diagnostic yesterday. I will go with you throughout the process. So The new application process is divided into three main areas. Okay, so we have the ideation stage, we have the solution/development stage, and then we have the go-to-market stage. Once we complete the diagnostic, we will have a panel that I'll show you also in the end that shows you the possibilities and the diagnosis that the platform does of your technology, of your idea, and also other funding opportunities that you have on a European level. So to start with, the platform requires us to fill in the details of our technology. So the first detail is whether we have a new product, a new service, or even a new process. So multiple solutions are allowed, and we can click on all of them as we wish. Okay. Also, the purpose. Okay, so are we talking about an R&D infrastructure, training and mobility, basic research, applied research, or non-technological innovation? Of course, when we are dealing with EIC Accelerator, we are talking about taking something into the market, so we are considering, of course, an applied research and technological innovation. So the acronym is, of course, a traditional field for each proposal. Don't worry if you get a warning message stating that your acronym may also be being used. That may occur, but acronyms are not being evaluated by the artificial intelligence behind the platform. Okay. Next up, we need to describe our solution, and we need to describe our solution with 1,000 characters limitation. So be brief, be concrete, and be innovative. Go straight to the point with regards to what it is that you are doing. Also, for each solution, there is a why, there is a problem. So what is yours? How big is the problem that you are facing? Is it an idea? What is the actual pain point that you are trying to solve? At this stage, we now jump into the development stage where we go into further details into our solution. So is it still an idea or is it already a technology? So, and in this case, you need to differentiate between both, okay? Then functions and use cases. So what characterizes your solution? So at this part, we should add these function and use cases that refer to the applicability of our solution. So the examples that the Commission gives here in this tool is, for example, a smartphone is used to making phone calls, and therefore we need to think carefully on these use cases and understand their importance with our solution. So for each function, we're going to have to give a name, of course, and then a feature. For each, there is a limitation in the number of features. And for each feature, you should also describe what is the knowledge that you require and also the technology behind the feature. Okay. Next section is, of course, the deliverables. This is a common output from the EIC process. So what are the most meaningful outputs of your project? And of course, we call the 1,000 characters limitation. Also, the TRL of the solution. So the technological readiness level, as you are aware, it's a very important scale used on the European level. It goes between TRL1 and TRL9. As most of you are aware, for the EIC activities, it is expected that you are at least on a TRL6. In some cases, it can be on TRL5, but needs to be really very well sustained. Also, where is the project ending? So are you targeting TRL 8, 7, or even 9? That's also very important that you can foresee how the EIC support may upscale your technology. And please recall that under the EIC application, TRL9 activities can only be funded via equity negotiations. So it's very important that you are aware of your time to market and the funding need that you need for your technology. Okay. So now we proceed, of course, with the company identification, and also a critical aspect in all winning teams is who you have on your side. So we need to identify our team. You need to give the name, their position, their field. In this case, whether it is related to the market, to the solution, to the technology, or even added knowledge, and why this is the right person for your company. Okay, you can have as many people as necessary for your team. Last but not least, we go into the final stage, so the go-to-market stage, where we describe the impact that we are foreseeing for our technology. So what it is our target market, how ready is our technology, and for that we also have here a new scale, so the market readiness level, where we indicate the current status in terms of market and of course the time to market. Okay, these are scales. Lastly, the potential for the society and other applications. So also a very important aspect that is common in the previous EIC process, and that you should also be acquainted with and describe how can your solution also benefit the society. Okay, so in broad terms, this is the diagnosis part, and then once you complete the diagnosis, it gives you a similar output like the one that I'm showing right now. Lluís, can you just confirm I'm showing the PowerPoint? Yes? Is it showing the PowerPoint? Just double checking. Okay, very well.
Yes. So, you can see it. Sorry, it was in
okay, awesome, very well, awesome. So once we have all that information, the AI platform classifies our preliminary information in three different ratings. So it classifies regarding the scientific rating of the solution that we are providing, the technological rating of the solution, and also if the team that we have on our side is the right team for the project. This classification is given in letters, so it's a quantitative classification that goes from A to D. Okay, and it gives us this diagnosis. Also, it gives us more details on your team profile, so it shows you if your CEO is in the right position with the right domain. Of course, it's important that you have the main positions. And as I said in the beginning, the EIC platform also shows you other possibilities of other applications that you may apply in the near future. And in this case, for example, we have here the EIC Pathfinder, the EIC Accelerator Open Challenges as well, EU prizes. So plenty, all of the European opportunities available will be shown also in the diagnosis section. So upon you have this diagnosis performed, then if you really decide to apply for the short application, then you also have there a small detail that is the step 2 of the EIC proposal. And of course, as you are aware, you need the short application go, you need the full application go, and also the go from the interview to get the funding and even the equity to boost your chances of success and economic growth. Okay, so competitive funding is of course necessary for everyone, but especially for SMEs. And now with the COVID-19 pandemic, business traveling was restricted, movement of people was disrupted, and therefore we saw an unprecedented stop of economic activity. And this poses a lot of stress and threats for the SMEs that deal with really high risk innovation. So to address this funding topic, we have with us today, as you are aware, relevant stakeholders in the field that are very much aware of the many struggles that the SME face every single day. And therefore, I'll give room for our moderator, which is António, our commercial director in Portugal, that will be guiding the panel throughout the discussion. Good morning, António.
Hello, good morning.
Hi, how are you?
How are you? Do you hear me good?
Yes, perfectly.
Perfect. So good morning to everyone. Like Hugo said, I'm a sales director of EIT Portugal. It's a pleasure to be here with you and to be the moderator of this roundtable. So let me first make a quick change to introduce each speaker. With us today we have Eamonn Carey, Managing Director at Techstars London. Good morning, Eamonn. How are you?
Good morning, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, welcome. Alexandre Mendes, Head of Ventures at Subvisual. Welcome, Alexandre. How are you?
Hello, excited to be here. Thanks.
Perfect, thank you. And Inês Matias, Business Manager at EIT Health. Hello, Inês, how are you?
Hello, good morning.
And last but not the least, my dear friend, Lluís Costa, FE Boost Manager. Hello, Lluís, how are you?
Hi, morning everyone. It's a pleasure also to be here.
Perfect, thank you. So first, I'm pretty sure that our audience will have plenty of questions to all of you. I kindly ask you to write them in the question and answer box, and at the end of our conversation, we'll address them and answer too. And my first question is for you, Inês. Inês has an extensive track record in supporting innovation in healthcare environment. So in a such demanding market with long time to market certifications and compliance, how is the funding addressed?
Hi, thank you. So in the EIT Health, so we do our work in three main pillars, okay? Innovation, education, and business creation. And in the business creation or the accelerator, where we have all the opportunities or the more direct opportunities for startups, we split our programs in 4 different stages because we understand that innovation in healthcare, just like you said, has a long time to market, has a lot of regulations and compliances, and also we know that what works and the times for digital health are completely different from the ones for biotech, especially, and also medtech. So we split our programs in access to knowledge, where we have mainly training education educational opportunities. Then we move to the access to stakeholders, where we bring, for instance, pharma companies to work with the startups to help them develop their technologies. Access to the market, where we support startups to either go to other European markets or outside of Europe, and then finally access to investment. But our funding opportunities, because again, it takes time, startups cannot work alone in these sectors, so we also try to leverage our network. EIT Health is a network of more than 150 partners between industry players, universities, patient associations. So startups usually they start in the accelerator opportunities, but then we usually take them to the innovation opportunities where they can build projects with the partners. And these are bigger projects, 3-year projects with budgets around 2.5 million. And then they can, of course, also keep having access to training opportunities in the education pillar, where they can learn more about finance or MDR and things like this. So because it's so complex, usually our catalog every year, it's also a bit complex because we have opportunities for each stage, and we try to adapt them to the startups' needs in the healthcare sector.
Great. Thank you a lot for your answer and your feedback. So, Lluís, FE, like we know, has an international acceleration program naming FE Boost. How does it work and how does it support companies?
Well, we have here different levels to support them. With our accelerated startups, we have a specific training program which adapts to their practical needs and in different topics, sales, legal, human resources, marketing, and obviously all the grants analysis that we have here. And if they need it, we can also have and work with them in a personalized mentoring. Regarding to grants, for example, and as we saw here with our colleagues of iGroup, we work together with them and we prepare analyzing the current financial needs of every startup in order to prepare them a financial roadmap. For example, I remember a startup from the last edition that we were working for them. One of the best grants here for this level of startups is called Neotech, and we obtained the best rate for them in Spain. So additionally to all this, and because of our core business is related to R&D every day, we're in contact with R&D directors in our clients. So thanks with this, we give to our startups this access to our market, especially, and Alex told you at the beginning, we have 30,000 clients worldwide, and that means that we can be opening new business opportunities at international level, such as with Portugal, Brazil, Chile, and everyone. So then our accelerator program is equity free. That means that we don't touch the cap table, but in case that they need requires private capital, we will consider also to invest in their finance round with our own investment vehicle and give them access also to external investors and funds. We work in a process with the scouting, startup day, we have the selection, then we start the program, and finally we have the demo day when we give them visibility to the potential investors, potential clients, and of course this kind of visibility that they need when they are growing. So we are looking for basically B2B startups with the solution already validated that can help to have this win-win with our customers and with our startups. And for now, our acceleration program is in Spain and in France, and we're growing, and the idea is to be in different countries of our group. And nowadays, for example, we are already open our fourth call here in Spain, and we invite to the startups, the Spanish startups for now, that you think that you can fit to apply to our program, to fiboost.com. You can see the details. That's how we do it, Antonio.
Perfect. Thank you a lot, Lluís. Eamonn, you are the next. Techstars already supported a long list of disruptive high-tech companies that are not only able to innovate, but are also able to overcome the funding gap. So the question is, how do you do it, and what is the answer that most companies are still not aware?
Sure. So I think we're very lucky that over the last 15 years we've invested in 2,500 companies. So we have a lot of data of thousands of funding rounds that we've seen at pre-seed, seed, Series A, and beyond. And so I think there's a couple of things for us. Real preparation and systematic preparation is the key. I think a lot of companies assume that they can talk to a couple of investors and very quickly close a funding round, or that they'll have an experience like the founders of Instagram did, where they'll meet someone at a barbecue and that person will write them a $500,000 check. And whilst I wish that was the case, it's not always what happens in the real world. And what companies need to do is be really structured about building out an investor pipeline, understanding if they're raising €150,000 they probably shouldn't be wasting their time talking to VCs because most of them won't invest that small. If they're raising more capital, then they need to think about maybe some pre-seed funds and others. That they shouldn't go and try and get Andreessen Horowitz to invest in their pre-seed round if they're a startup in Ireland who is pre-product and pre-revenue. So I think it's really building out an investor pipeline, thinking about who are the right angels, the right VCs, the right partners within those organizations, what are the themes that they're investing in, and really starting to kind of build that out. It's also then thinking very systematically again about the story that they're telling. I see a lot of companies that pitch me every day who are selling, effectively a vitamin and not a painkiller, or they're building a feature and not a product. And so we spend a lot of time, in fact, a lot of the last month of the program that we run at Techstars is focused on the story that you need to tell to investors to get them interested enough to take a second or third or fourth meeting and potentially to invest in your company. And that story can't just be, we're some smart people with a good technology. It needs to be, a go-to-market strategy. It needs to be an 18-month plan. It needs to be, a big vision that you can execute against over the next 10 years. So I think those are, some of the big challenges that companies need to overcome, and then understanding how much money do they want to raise? What do valuations mean? What should they expect when they go into those conversations? So I think companies mostly just lack a little bit of knowledge about how the process actually works, and in many cases then maybe lack the network to access that capital. And so I think that's where accelerator programs like ours and others can get them in front of people at demo days, can get them in front of networks of trusted investors, and give them an opportunity to raise from people who can really help those companies grow.
Great. I believe you will agree with me about the importance of the access to these financial instruments. So how do you see the difference between the European VCs with, for example, the United States, or for example, the growth of the Asian economic markets? Like, what the big difference?
I think so before running Techstars in London, I previously ran one of our accelerator programs in New York. So I've seen kind of both sides of the Atlantic and the way that the funding environment works in both places. I think the big difference in the US is, well, two big differences. One is the volume of angel investment that's there. If you look at Silicon Valley in particular, you have people who've come out of, the people who came out of Hewlett Packard were the people who invested in Apple. The people who came out of Apple were the people who invested in Facebook. The people who came out of Facebook invested in the next generation of companies. So, and we're starting to see that emerge in markets like Estonia, where you have the Skype founders investing in TransferWise in Perif, and that starts to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. But we lack that volume of angels in the European market. I mean, I think there's not many barbecues, I suspect, anywhere in Europe that you could go to and meet someone who'll write a 500,000 euro ticket. But those barbecues do exist in San Francisco and in New York. And so that's why I think these funding instruments are really critical for companies. If I look at, I started my first company in Ireland 16 years ago now, and we accessed funding from Enterprise Ireland, feasibility study funding, grant funding, etc., to kind of help get the ball rolling. And sometimes that really supports people in the absence of angel investors. So the angel investor network is one thing that's getting better in Europe, but that we need more of, that knowledge of what it's like to start and grow businesses, and that willingness to invest in the next generation is critical. And then the other big difference, which we see in the US and certainly in China and a lot of other emerging Asian markets, is the pace at which capital is deployed and the volume of capital that's deployed into companies. And again, with some of the grocery delivery people like Gorillas and others here in Europe, you're starting to see those, kind of US VC, almost private equity type of rounds where companies are raising 200, 300 million pretty quickly. If you look in the US, a lot of companies will go from an initial pre-seed round maybe of $2 million to a seed round of 8 and a Series A of 20 or 30. Those numbers are a lot smaller in this market, and so I think there's an ability to execute and hire and do lots of things faster. The flip side of that is, if you raise a $20 million Series A, you have some pretty serious expectations sitting on your shoulders and a lot of things that you have to get right in order for that business to succeed. So I think there's a lot of pros to the way that things happen here, but I think that the pacing at which things happen in the US is gives them a little bit of a competitive advantage. But I do see that Europe is catching up pretty quickly, and the quality of companies coming through here, the quality of capital going into companies, and the quality of support that's available, both government and EU level, but also kind of at a more local level, is improving, and so I think we'll see outcomes improve pretty substantially as a result.
Great, good news. So very well. Thank you for your feedback, Alexandre. Are companies prepared to equity negotiations, or how can we improve financial knowledge literacy companies?
That's quite an odyssey, actually. Perhaps it could be a nice step to start introducing that in schools, so that people can have access to better literacy on financial terms, and especially, well, pretty much across topics, since nowadays so many young people are turning into investing their money also, regardless of being crypto assets or digital assets, or even in stocks. And nowadays there are so many companies trying to do it in a more democratic way that perhaps we should do. We should start thinking about the governmental effort or strategy to educate people better about that. Equity negotiation is evolving at the pace of entrepreneurship in Europe. Perhaps we didn't know much, but we learned fast, and that's a core skill that we actually need to manage. So the more we grow, the more we find obstacles, the more we learn. And so I would say that it's not something that we don't entirely understand. It's something that actually we improved quite a lot, and yet we still have something to go. There's still work to be done.
Yeah, well, when we spoke with our clients, we have a little difficult to explain the questions of equity negotiations, and the funding gap has been trying to be solved by the European Commission with this new structure of the EIC, like you know. What is your view? Will it stimulate and incentive companies to pursue such opportunities, or no? Or, well, what is your opinion about that?
More than an opinion, I'm actually curious to see how it will work. We must celebrate what the EIC is trying to do. The openness to prototype this approach, to learn from past experiences. It's actually something that I can't help finding that they heard entrepreneurs, and that they also got in touch with the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Europe and learned some of the experiences that we've been compiling. So we actually need to prototype something here. I'm not sure how it will work. I think that we need to test it and to build a conspiracy so that it works out well, because in the end of the day, it's actually everybody's interest that it works well. So I would say that, well, for now, I would trust. I'm sorry for the bell, the doorbell, but e-commerce is happening. So we could talk about that. But my point here is I'm confident, and by default, I would trust the EIC team, since that if they are pushing this approach, I would trust it. But again, we have, this is always everybody's business. We as entrepreneurs can also help them be better, and we can provide better negotiation. The more we know about the topic, the better they will perform as equity stakeholders also. So I would say there's like a dance where they have some guidelines, but we also can provide some tipping points that will help us be better as an ecosystem.
Great, thank you. So I have a last question for all of you. So in a short sentence, what do you think it's important for SME to find a VC investment or even apply a EIC application? What are the core skills that are needed, and what would be the minimum requirements to, well, have a successful application? So Inês, ladies first, please.
Well, I would say that their technology, their solution is solving. I mean, this is a cliche. We heard this. We keep listening to this, and somehow people still, entrepreneurs sometimes don't listen or don't believe. But it's either you're solving a real need, or come on. And of course, we need to start small. And in Portugal, we always say it's a very good market to test because it's a small market, but we need to get out of our island, right? So it's either a European and even global problem, or then maybe just go get another idea. And so from EIT Health point of view, and I believe also EIC, it also has to be disruptive, right? Make sure that you do all the research you have to do, because it's so frequent to see startups pitching, and when they're pitching, there's always someone Googling it and saying, yeah, it's here already. So, and no, but we don't have competitors. Yeah, maybe you do. So make sure you do your homework. And if you cannot do it alone, well, there are a bunch of programs where you get support to do that, okay? And then obviously the team, right? There's this saying, a good idea without the proper team will die fast, but a good team with a bad idea can get another idea. So.
Great. I believe this is a very, very good input. Thank you for your feedback. Eamonn, give us your vision and your point of view, please.
For sure. I think it follows on nicely from what Inês said, which is the way that we assess companies at Techstars, the way that we look at all of the decisions that we make around funding is on the basis of a very simple 6-word formula, which is team, 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 market, traction, idea. And that's exactly what we look at. We look for companies that have great founders, that have real founder market fit, that have a passion for what they're doing and a deep understanding of that market, so that they don't miss the fact that a competitor is already out there, or that they don't build what we call a chocolate teapot, which is not going to be very much help to anyone. So the really fundamental thing is make sure that you surround yourself with great co-founders and a phenomenal team, because I think even if the idea that you're working on is not a great one, you can pivot your way to success with the right team.
Great. Team. Fix it. Thank you a lot. Lluís, please.
Totally agree with him, no? Team. And of course, to validate the idea, no? Inês said, you can have here in this kind of process that tries to go to Europe, usually we have a really pure technology that tries to go and be different here. No? And when you are, regarding my experience, when you're trying to apply to European grants or something like this kind of project should be really good, define it in terms of characteristics and the technology, and describe really good innovation that they have. No, but when you are in front of a VC or investors, the main point here is try to not describing the characteristics. I mean, and the technological things. Don't worry, it's okay. But the more important thing in front of the investors is the business model that you have. That's why the investors love to be clear. You should be really clear about your business model and how you have this rentability of this project on the future. Not because of your idea, because you know how to gain this traction in the market, and really there is a really need on the market about that. It's more important the problem is really important than the possible solution that you have for that. If the problem is really big, don't worry that you will have grants and you will have investors to help you, for sure.
Great, thank you, thank you. Alexandre, would you mind, please?
Sure. I would focus on execution capabilities. Obviously, this is deeply correlated with team, but well, as a disclaimer, I ran quite a few acceleration programs, and there's something that we usually say on the entrepreneurship ecosystem that 1 in 10 works, but that always frustrated me a lot. So I'm more trying to find out what actually makes a team work and what makes an entrepreneurial project work, and how we as ecosystem players can intervene in such a way that it adds value for those teams. So I'm pretty focused on the learning curve that the entrepreneurs have to do, especially if they have a research background or a very deeply technical background. I'm very interested in how can we create pairing teams that assist entrepreneurs in that process. So especially for the circumstance of the EIC programs, I would say that for those that are listening, they should definitely ask for help during the application, even for the language, because sometimes two technical teams talk too much about technology, and they need to translate that into business language. At Subvisual, we are actually trying to perform or to operate as a venture studio that brings a team for a short period to these new young teams that assist them. And it's pretty much like a tandem approach where we can help these teams grow, especially because there's another topic that we are not discussing today. We are missing talent enough in Europe to build better startups and to provide these new startups with larger teams. So it's really tough in some circumstances to help entrepreneurs thrive if they don't have access also to people with the right skills to get things done. So I would focus definitely on the execution capabilities. Obviously, technology is always interesting, but in the end of the day, it's more about the execution than about the epiphany.
Yeah, I agree with your vision. The business model and the business language, like you said, it's very, very important. So my friend Hugo have a lot of questions. We collect with our attendance, but well, I would like to thank you for your presence, and it was a great honor to be with you, and thank you a lot. I passed the ball to Hugo, and Hugo.
Yeah, so of course, we had our audience here just popping up plenty of questions, so we won't have time to answer all of them, but we do have time for a couple of them. So the first one, I think it can be answered by all of you, and it's related to what do you consider to be deep tech? So what is the difference between disruptive and incremental innovation and deep tech? Because as you know, the new EIC has this new buzzword, which is deep tech. So for example, is providing AI on the technology deep tech? What do you think? Maybe I can start with Alexandre.
Nothing like attending huge events like Web Summit to understand the power of buzzwords and to realize how meaningful they become. In the end, buzzwords are just buzzwords, but understanding the meaning or the underlying assumption behind those buzzwords is really important. You don't actually need to go to the dictionary to understand what deep tech is. It's deep tech. It's not common. it demands a specific work for a period, and it can have a breakthrough impact in the market or on, let's say, on the technological landscape. Obviously, I would advise to look for the documents where the European Commission defines deep tech, but that's not the core problem. As for becoming disruptive, I would say that we are actually at the verge of a digital transformation opportunity in several fields, where many new technologies or many promises from the recent past are now prepared to be applied and to be deployed in scale. Things like 5G, automation, artificial intelligence, blockchain, you name it. Some big names, some big buzzwords are now more ready to be deployed at scale and to be adopted, because something core from my point of view is understanding the difference between technology, deep technology, and technology readiness or technology adoption. And that would be enough for another set of webinars, actually. But at the end of the day, I would go for ask questions for the European Commission or on the documents. But usually deep tech is, it's not common. I like to define it in that way. It demands work. It demands a certain level of expertise. Usually, it might have some intellectual property under the development process. So I would go that way.
Very well. Luz?
Yes, we have a additional question for all of you. Maybe you is another one for us. So how do you think that angels or VCs, private investors, look open as startup applying to EIC Accelerator? So should the startups involve this kind of investors during the application, before, or maybe just later at the end of the project? What do you think?
Is it for me?
Any of you maybe can just answer. Maybe Eamonn, Alexandre, would you prefer?
I can go really quickly about that. For me,
Sure.
all opportunities are great. So let's consider this as an opportunity. This is a great opportunity to build like a blended combination of funding opportunities for our startup, which can be advantage. So my approach would be, as always, be transparent with all the stakeholders and involve the investors in the process. Why not? I kind of feel that many investors will push entrepreneurs to at least try to get some of this EIC support. So I would keep it as an option, but manage it with transparency.
Yeah, I think I'd agree. I think it's important to be upfront with your angels and VCs. I think the risk that a lot of, I mean, particularly US angels and VCs, but even some European ones, a lot of them perceive this type of funding to be slightly risky because they maybe think there's going to be a lot of time and reporting and data required on the part of the startup. And so historically, that's been one of the reasons people have been maybe a little bit more reluctant when it comes to supporting startups. But I think that's starting to diminish. And I think the key thing that you can do as a founder is tell your angels, tell your VCs, get their backing, get their support. They may have portfolio companies that have gone through similar processes before. So, you know, I think being honest is honesty is the best policy, and I think it'll go a long way, and the support you'll get will be substantial.
Yeah, and if I can also share our perspective and experience in EIT Health fundings, of course, but usually we do have an investor network with around 80 investors in that network, and often startups come through the investors. So the investors themselves are recommending startups to go through apply to these programs, and just they come through them. So I think that at least the investor ecosystem are very open to this, and they see the added value of these European funding opportunities.
Yes, totally agree. You should be transparent in that way, and investors understand it, and it's okay. And I also would like to add some point in the previous question about the disruption concept and the deep tech. No, finally, deep tech is the point that you have a really important technology that supports your idea, but when it's a disruptive innovation is when really this tech has a really important application and impact to the market. That's when it breaks, and that's why it's disruptive. When it breaks, like impacts you, like how cold it will be possible, no? And it doesn't matter the level of the technology you have. The more important is the impact on the market and the need that you solve here.
Lluís, allow me just to add. I would say nowadays to be disruptive, it has to be about the business model overall. Not only about the technology. It's if we put the focus on the technology, we'll be searching for breakthrough technologies that we saw on cinema and that we are still dreaming of, which is great, but that might put the focus on the wrong things, because in the end of the day, it doesn't have to be that breakthrough. It can be good enough, and the execution can be disruptive.
Exactly, totally agree. As you said before, no? The execution that you have there and how you are pivoting on your business model and focusing on the best point in these phases of the business model to execute your idea that could be really deep or not. It doesn't matter. The important is to impact the market. Yeah.
Very well. So
well, thank you. Also, Hugo, I have a question for us. Maybe you can answer it. So someone is asking about the next cutoff, the June cutoff. So is it going to be, because we only have around 2 weeks to prepare our application if we want to just reach the next cutoff, it would be less or more competitive than maybe the next ones, the October one, or what do you expect?
Yeah, so the EIC, and that's the name of the webinar, so the EIC is the Champions League of Innovation. So when you are on the Champions League, you have competition regardless if it's the first, the second, the third, whatever is the cutoff. Of course, that giving this new platform a new process, we may expect to have less applications, but it will be competitive as it was in the last cutoff of the Horizon 2020, with the oversubscription that occurred with more than 4,000 applications. So the timeline is a timeline. The timeline may be postponed. We are currently waiting for official information, but that's something that may occur. So that's also important information for you. But competition is always ready when you are dealing with the Champions League of Innovation, of course. Okay, so guys, very well. So our time is running out. I'd like to thank all of you for being with us. We had a really rich session on the topic. We addressed the EIC process, then the platform, and then we were lucky enough to have here Inês, Eamonn, Alexandre, Lluís, with plenty, I cannot stress this enough, plenty of takeaway lessons. So thank you also for being with us. And
Well, yes, I think it's the same for me. Also, thank you very much to our speakers for sharing your time and your knowledge, of course, with all of us today. And also, I want to thank you all the participants for your presence, for your comments, your questions. We will just analyze the additional questions that you made, so we can just contact you directly and answer it to you. And of course, do not hesitate to contact us for anything regarding the CAC. good luck with the startups that are going to apply to this program, and thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.